The Gospel of Luke, chapter 23. Picture yourself standing at the crossroads of human history, where the greatest act of love and sacrifice takes place. It's a moment that has echoed through centuries, a moment that reshaped the way we understand grace, forgiveness, and what it means to give of oneself completely. Now, this is the essence of the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23. It's not just a historical record of Jesus' final hours. It's a message of hope, one that calls us to live differently in a world that can often feel cold and unforgiving. So, as we walk through this chapter together, let us consider how these timeless truths can transform the way we respond to injustice, pain, and even our own shortcomings. Let's dive deep into the heart of these powerful events and find the wisdom they hold for us today. The Unjust Trial. Jesus is brought before Pilate, accused of inciting rebellion and claiming to be a king, a charge that is completely fabricated. Pilate, after examining Jesus, declares that he finds no basis for the charges against him. However, the crowd is driven by anger and manipulated by religious leaders. They continue to demand his death. Even when Jesus is sent to Herod, another authority figure, he remains silent, not defending himself against the false accusations. Now, despite knowing Jesus' innocence, Pilate eventually succumbs to the crowd's pressure, releasing Barabbas, a known criminal, and sentencing Jesus to crucifixion. This trial is a reflection of the brokenness of human justice. How often do we see truth obscured by fear, anger, and social pressure? And yet, through all of this, Jesus embodies quiet strength and unshakable integrity. He does not retaliate, nor does he argue. He allows God's will to unfold, trusting the larger plan at work. So think about that. In moments where we face false accusations or injustice, we too can choose to respond with grace, trusting that God sees the truth and that his justice will prevail in due time. Our integrity is not shaped by others' actions, but by our faith in God's greater plan. The Crucifixion. As Jesus is led to Golgotha, the place of the skull, where he would be crucified, a man named Simon of Cyrene is pulled from the crowd to help Jesus carry the cross. Now, this moment speaks to the weight of the burden Jesus bore, not just the physical cross, but the weight of humanity's sins. Simon's act reminds us that sometimes we are called to step in and help others carry their burdens, even when we don't fully understand them. At the site of the crucifixion, Jesus is nailed to the cross between two criminals, a scene that would have been filled with bitterness and anger in any other circumstance. Instead, Jesus utters words that change the world. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. You see, even in the face of unimaginable suffering, Jesus' heart is filled with compassion for those who are responsible for his death. This is grace in its purest form, offering forgiveness to those who don't deserve it and may not even seek it. But, if you think about it, how often do we withhold forgiveness because we feel it's undeserved? Jesus shows us that forgiveness is not based on worthiness of the other person, but on the abundance of grace in our own hearts. So, to forgive is to release ourselves from the chains of bitterness and align ourselves with the heart of God. The repentant thief. So as Jesus hangs on the cross, one of the criminals mocks him, saying, "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebukes him, recognizing their own guilt and Jesus' innocence. In a remarkable act of humility, the criminal turns to Jesus and says, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus responds with an astonishing promise. "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Now, this brief exchange encapsulates the essence of salvation: acknowledgement of our own sin, a sincere turn towards Jesus, and a gift of grace that always follows. The criminal did nothing to earn paradise. He simply believed in Jesus in his final moments. This shows us that redemption is always possible, no matter how far we've strayed or how late in life we come to recognize our need for God. Now, think about it. It's never too late to turn to God. No matter the mistakes or the paths we've walked, His arms are always open, offering forgiveness and eternal life. This story reminds us that grace is not something we earn. It's a gift given freely by a loving God to all who come to Him. The death of Jesus. So, the scene of Jesus' death is marked by cosmic signs. Darkness covers the land, and the temple curtain is torn in two. These are powerful symbols of what's happening spiritually. The curtain, which separated people from the Holy of Holies, is torn, symbolizing that through Jesus' sacrifice, the barrier between humanity and God has been removed. In his final moments, Jesus commits his spirit into the Father's hands, fully surrendering to God's will. And after witnessing these events, a Roman centurion, a man who had no prior connection to Jesus, declares, "Surely this was a righteous man." Even in death, Jesus' life bears witness to his divine nature and innocence. It is a powerful reminder that even when we think hope is lost, God is working in ways we cannot always see. Think about that. The tearing of the temple curtain is a reminder that through Jesus, we have direct access to God. There is no longer any separation. God is with us in every moment, especially in our darkest times. And in those moments of surrender, when we trust God completely, we allow His power to work in our lives. Jesus' burial. So, Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy member of the council who had secretly been a disciple of Jesus, steps forward to ask for Jesus' body. Despite the risk to his reputation, Joseph takes responsibility for Jesus' burial, placing his body in a tomb cut out of rock. Now, the women who followed Jesus prepare spices and perfumes to anoint his body, but must wait because of the Sabbath. This quiet act of devotion shows the deep love and faith of those who followed Jesus, even in the face of death. It also reflects the importance of caring for others, even when hope seems lost. Joseph's courage to publicly align himself with Jesus in this moment, and the women's careful preparations, demonstrate their unwavering faith. So think about that with me for a moment. Faithfulness is not just about grand gestures. It's about quiet acts of devotion in times of uncertainty. Even when we cannot see the whole picture, God sees our faithfulness and honors it. In moments of loss, we are called to continue trusting and serving, knowing that God is at work, even when we cannot see the outcome. So, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, is a story of unimaginable suffering, but also of hope, grace, and redemption. It teaches us about the power of forgiveness, the beauty of redemption, and the importance of faithfulness. Even in the most difficult of circumstances, these lessons challenge us to live with a heart of grace, to forgive when it seems impossible, and to trust God's plan, even when we don't fully understand it. Now, as you leave here today, I encourage you to reflect on these teachings. Where can you show forgiveness in your life? How can you trust God more fully, even when life seems unfair? And most importantly, remember that just as the repentant thief found grace in his final moments, that same grace is always available to you. It's never too late to turn toward God. His love and mercy are greater than anything we can imagine. Let these truths shape your actions, your heart, and your journey forward, and may you walk in the peace that only God can give. Thanks for joining me today, friends. Tomorrow we're going to discuss the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24. I can't wait to see you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks again. Take care. Talk to you later.